Hey everybody, welcome back to Guns Out in Minnesota. Today I'm excited to bring you a product sent out to the channel by ZeroTech Optics. This is their new Trace Advanced 4-24 with some Japanese glass. Very, very high quality optic. I'm not going to do the normal thing today. I'm not in any rush. Normally I try to get to the specs, talk about the features, and then I do some demonstration and finish with my opinion of how the optic operated. But I'm going to start off by telling you I have a very favorable opinion of this optic, and I've decided to change it up a little bit. I will talk about the specs at the end. I'm going to show you some of the features in just a moment, but there's going to be an enormous amount of shooting at long range, early morning, midday when it's really bright, and then evening a minute before sundown. I'm going to give you my opinions of actually using the dang thing, and again, it's a very positive review. Now for the ocular lens, or the focus for your reticle, I'm actually not taking this off. You can see that these are fit on there, and I like the fit I have, so I'm not taking it off. But there's a good amount of texture underneath. If you wanted to take this off, you can actually adjust your diopter with this attached because it's grabbed onto the diopter itself. Buttery smooth, absolutely buttery smooth. And as far as resistance, it's the perfect amount of resistance. If you're gonna have a fast focus on a scope, you don't want it to move so freely that it'll just get bumped, especially if you do need to run it out a little bit. I run mine all the way to the right because that's just what was clear for my eye. But I will tell you that this thing is buttery, buttery smooth. Absolutely a premium feel. And lockup is nice, yeah. So I would just say if you are going to need to back it off a little bit like that, don't worry about it getting bumped or moved around accidentally. I think it's got the right amount of tension there, and it's done extremely well. It even gives you an idea. There is an idea of what you're doing here for strength. There's a plus sign and an arrow, so you know this is the direction you need to move from the factory setting if it is not clear for your eye. Move it to the left. The way that you set one of those, if you've never done it before, it's important to know. Look at a blue sky, let's try that again. Look at a blue sky, a blank wall, but only for a moment while you make minute adjustments until the reticle itself is clear. You don't want to look at a target or a piece of paper that has information on it or something, because if you stare at your target, your eyes are going to basically start to clear up that image for you. And what you want is this mechanical device to do that work, so that every time you look through it, your eye doesn't have to try to refocus for that image. And so this set really nicely for me. Moving on to the Magnification Ring. This thing is a thing of beauty. Something I noticed immediately when I saw this is it does have texture, but it's not like a really aggressive texture on this. It's a little bit smoother, kind of just more scallops, very even scallops all the way through. And then it did come with this installed. This here is your assist. You could take that off if you don't want a Mag Ring assist. But then I grabbed it and I started moving the wheel, and I realized this is the best. It is absolutely the best. Best in class, best that I own, best that I've ever used. This thing is like a piece of glass. It is so smooth, and it's an appropriate amount of resistance. I don't think you would bump it and it would move like, really rapidly, but oh my gosh. Fit and finish on this thing is next level, guys. Very happy with that. You are not going to be disappointed in the least in the fit and finish on this. There is no grit, there's no slack, there's no play. I just, I tried to think of a few critiques or something to come back with, but I have not found anything yet, to be completely honest. This is beautiful. Wow, it is just so smooth. There's nothing in there. I like it a lot. And in competitions, I probably will use this cattail or this Mag Ring assist to go back and forth. Wow, so good. So that does matter. I care about that. In an optic of this quality, I want to see that, and absolutely it's there. Now, from 4 to 24 is your Mag range. I think that's very appropriate. I'll talk more about the reticle, glass quality, and all those things later, but it's easy to move between any of these numbers. And I think the figures themselves, there's a nice high contrast for the color, the size that they went with. Sometimes companies will go a little too small. Sometimes the numbers actually don't match up. The calibration is wrong. None of those issues here whatsoever. It's exactly on point. I really like that. Excellent job. Excellent job on the Mag ring here, as well as the assist. I think that's a very functional size, and you'll notice it does not interfere with my bolt knob. Moving on to the Parallax wheel and knob. This is another thing of beauty. If it sounds like I'm gushing, it's because I am. Everything on this scope, this optic, is done so fantastically well. It does go down to 20 meters, which I think is excellent. I like to see scopes go down to a minimum of 20 meters or 25 yards. That's kind of my minimum, especially because I like to do some air rifle stuff, and at a very basic minimum, NRL 22, which is exploding around the world. It's a huge competition now, or precision 22 competitions. You know, the minimum you need is 25 yards to get that really clear image, and you'll be shooting on 1/4-inch targets that close very often. And then further distances, you know, you're gonna need to grab that parallax and true up your image. And this thing goes from 20 to 50 to 100, 150, 200, 300, 500, 1,000, and then infinity. Now, I have taken a look at all of these ranges, and I am astounded because for me and my eye, which is the important part here, the numbers lined up perfectly. Now, you shouldn't expect that. To be honest with you guys, the numbers, you know, it'd be just as well to not have numbers on there and you figure it out with your own eye. Do not get grouchy or bothered if the numbers don't line up for your eye on your day, in your context, in your lighting situation. Because you have good days for your eyes and bad days for your eyes, and you might go back and forth a little bit, or perhaps you haven't practiced that much, or perhaps it's just not exact for your eye. But I'm telling you, for my eye, it was amazing to see that the numbers were very, very trustworthy, very, very close on all settings. And it's just, again, everything on here that's supposed to be smooth and lower resistance, this is glass. This is the best parallax, the best Mag ring, the best diopter of anything I have. It is just so incredibly smooth. This is next level stuff, guys. ZeroTech has really hit it out of the park, and like I said, if it sounds like I'm gushing, it's because I am. Moving on to the elevation turret. This is a very important thing, obviously, in the kind of shooting that you're going to do with an optic like this. You need precise turrets, and so I'm going to start by talking about the texture of the turrets themselves. There's a good aggressive amount of scalloping there, kind of a little indent, and then there's scallops that run vertically through, and it's a really nice feel. Not too much, not too little. Effort is pretty spot on for the way that I like it. Everybody's a little different when it comes to these things. Next, looking at the actual numbers themselves, one thing that they did really well here is, again, it's a nice high contrast. It lets you know that up is moving this way. You have your 1/2 mil increments, 1 mil, 1.5, 2, and so they stand out. Again, contrast is the feature here, with small for the 1/2 mil, large for the full mil. Very easy to read. Very easy to pick up when I'm behind the scope. And I'm going to let you hear with the microphone a little closer how these actually sound. I'll get a little closer, but I'm going to tell you, phenomenal. This is ZeroTech's best work by far. There's like no backlash at all in these turrets. When I try to go back and forth and get a little slosh in there, which doesn't, you know, it doesn't mean very much, guys. And a lot of optics that do have that, it doesn't mean very much. It's just a quality control kind of thing. By the way, my zero is actually set 3/10 low. That's because of 22 competitions, shooting closer. But there's no backlash or slop, or there's nothing in there. It is just precise and clicky and tactile and audible. Move freely enough, but they're just so clicky and tactile, very positive, and easy to read, which is an important thing. I don't want to get lost in the information, especially in a competition. That's very frustrating to get lost in the information. If it's too dramatically different and it's just way too unique, sometimes in a time-based competition, I might actually trip myself up a little bit with that. But this is just simple, very simple to read, easy, high contrast, fit and finish, again, is phenomenal. Now talking about the tracking and return to zero, I have tested this in the full range of travel several times shooting groups, okay? Over and over and over, several times, maybe 20, 30 times of just specifically looking for return to zero because I wanted to know, is it there? Yes, it is. Return to zero. I cannot discern any error. All scopes have some amount of error because they're mechanical systems and nothing's perfect, but I can't discern anything, not a tenth left or right or up or down. Tracking and return to zero appear to be absolutely perfect on my model. I don't have all the models, I only have a sample of one, so I would like to give myself that proviso, but I will tell you, when I was zeroing this, it was a 2-shot zero. Exactly 2 shots. I kind of bore-sighted it. I looked at my target at 50 yards. I moved the reticle to where I thought it ought to be. I took my first shot. I measured it using the phenomenal Tremor3 reticle and made my corrections and got it over to where it needed to be on the windage and elevation. And it was literally a 2-shot zero. Exactly where it needs to be. And every time I've shot this gun, man, I'm shooting crazy small groups. I think that's related to the glass clarity and reticle, but I'm so happy to see that the tracking return to zero is on point for a scope of this caliber, advertised the way it is. This truly is the best work ZeroTech has put out. Very happy with it. The only difference being that the Windage has that cap, so I took the cap off. One thing I'll say that they did really well on the Windage Cap is sometimes the Windage Cap can actually tighten down on the Windage Turret if you do it wrong. And I've seen before Windage Caps that would move the turret underneath as you tightened, and it would actually change your data. That's a problem, but this is not one of those optics. This one has enough room to breathe, so it does not run into the actual Windage Turret here and change your corrections when you're taking it on and off. I know people are going to like having that cap turret, and thankfully underneath that cap turret is not like a really hard to grab onto small turret. If you actually wanted to leave this off, you definitely could leave it off. And this is just as tactile and trustworthy, scalloped nicely. It's a slightly smaller form of what's on top to fit underneath the cap, obviously, but this is very functional. If you're somebody who likes to dial for windage, or you need to, on extreme days, you'll be able to access that. Otherwise, if you're on a hunt or in a competition and you just don't want it getting bumped or mashed or marred in a gun safe, whatever the case may be, this has a protector on there. Phenomenal job, fit and finish. You know, you almost wouldn't even know that there's any seam here that this can come off. It just fits so incredibly perfectly against that. I'm not sure if it's advertised as watertight, but it sure seems like that is a watertight fit. You know, it doesn't have a rubber grommet on it, so maybe I shouldn't say that, but also has the identifier on there, so right is this direction and left is that direction. Awesome. I've not had to use it very much because obviously, like I said, I did a 2-shot zero on this gun and I was good to go, but I will use it more on my center fire portion of the review. Here you have a shot of the reticle on 24 power. Now again, I went with the Tremor3 reticle. If you're not a fan of busier style reticles, you can go with their in-house reticle design, which still has a Christmas tree, plenty of holdover, mill-based. It's a fantastic reticle, and I've reviewed that on the previous Trace Advanced review that I did of a previous model. Really, really solid optic and reticle choice. I like those a lot, but if I have my druthers, I prefer this one. Not everybody maybe takes the time to dedicate and understand the Horus Vision kind of philosophy, but they're real big into holdovers and studying and understanding, you know, what's inside your glass. And if you're the kind of person who will take 5-10 minutes to understand the math and some of the thinking or reasoning behind this, then I'm going to link a video below where the guy who actually designed this reticle, he explains it very simply in just a few minutes. He does a much better job than I am, and I'm not going to try to do that for him because it's just, he's so good at it. So I'm going to link that video below in my description. Watch that if you're curious about the reticle, but I'm going to just tell you how it looks through here. First of all, the glass is pristine. This is a very, very good piece of glass. Like I've said before, I think it's the best that I have in my collection. Certainly the best of any 30mm optic I've ever owned. Really, really nice, crisp, clear glass, and that just helps. The reticle itself is nice and clear, If there's any diminishing around the edges, I just want to let you know that is just a result of the camera work here right now. I am filming with a DJI Pocket Osmo 2, and it does good. It does really good for basic vlogging and that kind of thing, but it cannot do kind of the precise work that I need to get a nice shot behind an optic. So this is good, but it's not perfect as far as a representation. Like even as I'm looking at my camera right now, I see a little bit of fuzz in and out as far as focus. Trust me, those numbers at the bottom of the reticle where I see number 6 and then the 7th line, those are perfectly clear. When I look at them, I do not see any distortion around the edges of the glass or the reticle. The holdover is very trustworthy, and I don't think there's fringing issues or CA or any distortion or lack of clarity. That is just a result of the camera, and it's important in an optic of this price range. It's very important for you to know that. Okay, moving on. So this is 24 power. The dot is plenty big. It's my preferred dot size. The information in the reticle, like I said, I love it. It's fantastic for any caliber as long as you do the math and figure out how that's going to work with those wind holds, those bigger dots. Very, very cool. I like that a lot. And then also you have some ranging features in there, which are super cool. I like the hold under ranging feature there. There's some staggered amounts so that you can get a real precise measurement. That is a fantastic idea. A lot of people have actually started switching to something similar to that, and I think it's the best way. If you're going to use it for ranging, I think it's the best way to do it. So again, a very competent reticle for people who are into that kind of thing. On 24 power, I can still use a little over 7 mils of holdover, and I really like that. A little over 7 mils of holdover, beautiful glass. I'm going to back it off here a little bit because not everybody likes to shoot on higher meg. Let's say you're somebody who wants to shoot on 15 power. Well, there's 15 power. 15 power is, again, very, very functional. That's probably the most that some people in PRS or some of those competitions, NRL 22 competitions, are going to want to use. They don't want to go heavy meg. Let me just focus reticle here real quick. So in the last competition that I was shooting this in, this is actually where I mostly left it. We did shoot some KYL racks, and I found that actually 15 power was still enough. It was NRL 22, and so I didn't need crazy magnification, and this did not block or obscure a field of view. I didn't have issues with that, but again, I'm used to busier style reticles. I absolutely love that this reticle has so much information on the lateral line, the hold under and the hold over, and a couple differences there. One thing I should mention, again, I'm not going to do a full masterclass on this reticle, but just for those of you who don't understand, the large dots in the windage there, it's a part of a calibration process for, whatever caliber you want to shoot. That's fine. You can use those. But at 10 mils, you have a difference here. And I'm going to back it off one more time so you can see what I mean. Now that I've backed it off, you can see that at 10 mils, it changes and you no longer have those big dots for windage holds. Now it's just going to a true mill kind of grid style reticle. If you know how to use it, you probably love it. If you're not sure, you'll need to research a little bit, but that mill style reticle and grid is fantastic. And if you see these horizontal lines going across, you have your zeroing line where that center dot is. The next line down is 10 mils. The next line, if we back off here, right now I'm at about 7.9 power. I'll back off. Check that out. So it might not be perfectly focused. It's hard for me to tell on my camera, but you can see that there are those horizontal lines that go across the entirety of the reticle and the image. And those are 10 mils per. And so you could really quickly, if you wanted to do holdover, like I do with my 22, I can actually see over 40 mils of holdover. And I do have to squint a little bit to see at the bottom of the reticle there, those numbers are small. I recognize that. But I can truly use 40 mils of holdover. With my 22, that takes me past 600 yards. That's really cool. Very, very cool. It actually takes me out to about 625 consistently with the Normatec ammo that I shoot. And I can see the reticle. I might have trouble seeing splash with that much hold, but if my data is good and I know where to hold, I can actually hit those targets, and I have. It's really, really neat to be able to do that and back it off literally at 4 power right now. And that reticle is nice and clear at the bottom of the glass. That's an important point. An important part of shooting is having clear enough glass where the reticle is not distorted, it's not blurry, and this does not suffer from any of that. I'm going to tell you that 100% of what is visible in this reticle is functional and is clear, and I have zero complaints about it. So ZeroTech, good job, very happy. I can be a little picky about this reticle because some optics companies have opted to put this in, and the execution isn't always perfect, and when the execution isn't good, these extended holdover reticles, it's just not good, guys. It's bad. It's not usable sometimes in a lesser quality glass, and I think you need premium Japanese glass like this in order to make sense of this. It's not everybody's cup of tea, but it certainly is mine. And if you like holdovers, or you just want the option of being able to shoot ELR distances with this optic, you are not forced to rely on just the internal elevation. You can use those holdovers, and depending on how good your eyes are, you could go quite a ways. All right, 4 power. I'll refocus in a second. Now we're up to, there's what 10 power looks like. Here's a shot of 10 power. Now at 10 power, you can see all the way down to 18 mils. Very impressive. 18 mils of holdover at 10 power. 12 power. 16 power. 20 power. And again back at 24 power, which is beautiful. If you're a heavy mag shooter, you like to go right to the top, no worries at all. This optic is very competent, and it can handle the full mag range without having any distortion or lack of clarity, lack of contrast in the image, and it really doesn't even get dark. The only issue I'm running into right now is it's nearly sundown, but the image itself has stayed nice and bright, and it hardly gets any darker as I improve or magnify the image. Now I understand that the Tremor3 reticle is not going to be everyone's cup of tea, and that's why they offer the optic in 2 reticles. This is not that same scope. This is the Vengeance 5-25, which I've already done a previous review on. If you feel like the 4-24 is just a little different than something you want, maybe take a look at the Vengeance 5-25. If it's out of your budget, then the 5-25 Vengeance is also something you should look at, because this is still a really high quality scope. This one has the alternative reticle, the RMG in it, the ZeroTech reticle, and this scope still just absolutely hammers. And I'm going to throw a mount on here and shoot a couple of targets down there at 300 yards and just give you an idea of what that other reticle option would look like. All right, just doing holdovers, and I'm gonna shoot on let's see, let's back it off a little bit. Shoot on 4 power. I can still see those holdovers. Okay, a little high. All right, 4 power is definitely doable. Awesome reticle. Not bad. Let's give it a little more practical magnification. Like 8 power is pretty good. Can do a lot with 8 power. Let's see. little high. Oh yeah. Love that delay. That is a very practical reticle. Like that a lot. This tripod, this is the Sunway Photo T2830CS, and it rocks. It does a really good job. Only 2.9 pounds. And with this setup, this is a nice lightweight setup for running in the woods. Just a little right. Awesome. Plenty steady to do what I'm doing. Let's try a small target. This is a very, very small target. I am going to bump up magnification here to all the way to 24 power. Okay. And I will dial. All right, if I get this, it's impressive. I have a 3-inch target down there at 300 yards. One MOA target from a standing position is not exactly easy. Oh my gosh, that was so close. All right, when you get your Trace Advanced, this is the box it's going to come in. It is just as premium as the scope is. Have some of your information there to make sure you got the right reticle, everything you want. The Trace Advanced, 4-24 by 50, and I went with the Tremor3 reticle. That was the model I requested. And very unique box, just because it's like it's a keeper. Like, I would have problems throwing this away. I like it. It's very nice. It does say Japanese precision on there. This is a Japanese made optic, and it is definitely lined really well, guys. There's foam on every angle here. The optic is totally secure, and this thing could be thrown around quite a bit. If you're a little nervous about the UPS guy, mail, postal, whatever, delivery service, this is not going to get broken. 100% sure. This is a nice density foam, so that's what it comes with. Inside you have some of your information, as well as some stickers, a lens cloth, and also something I like. This is a nice touch. I'm glad that they have not gone away from this. They always include a diagram with the reticle, which is really nice. I find this super helpful when I'm training new shooters. I like to show them this and then point to things and explain values. This is just a really helpful thing, something I like. And then also you can write in your data. So it says meters, you could write in yards, and you'll have a piece of paper to go with you and collect your data as you shoot and get different distances, a different temperature, and you can write in important information. This is a nice thing, and everybody who's getting into long range needs to write down their data. Don't just trust stray lock. That is not a good, it's not a good plan. Once you've been shooting long enough, you realize that that data has to be corrected. There are 2 types of stickers in here, and they're really, really nice stickers. These are actually nice enough to put on something. I like these. And then we're gonna move that out of the way. There's always a nice scope coat. And this one says ZeroTech on the side. Really nice scope coat, good quality. Again, I actually use these. I almost prefer these sometimes. In the winter time, it's nice to cover up my optics, keep snow, water, whatever else off of them. And then when you put them in the safe, if you have a full gun safe, this will protect your optic from getting marred up. Or if it rides around in the bed of a truck or whatever it is you do with an optics, this is a nice toss in there. And actually, it is very high quality. This is better than any scope coat I bought online. This is a very nice quality. There is this right here. There's a lot of pride of ownership with ZeroTech products. That is absolutely a thing. There's a QR code if you need to get that, and then it says scan the QR code to find your online instruction manual. So there's not a manual in the box, but if you're not sure how to set that zero stop or work on the turrets, it's pretty simple. But if you needed to, you can scan that, and it saves on paperweight, and they pass that savings on to you. Most of us want to use our phone anyways. On the other side, it reminds you that you're always covered. Any problem, any owner, Anybody who owns this, lifetime warranty, okay? They know that they have a very good product. They trust their product, and their warranty is any person, any problem. And, you know, so it's always covered is the big point there. They want to remind you of that. Don't forget about that. If you damage something, it's not a loss. Send it back to them. They're very, very good with customer service. And then it is cool to have a scope shade with this. I haven't needed it. It's just the context I'm shooting in. But if you need a sunshade, this is a good one. It's a good length. It's not overly long. It's just long enough to do the job. If you're shooting and you have a stainless barrel or something like that, some glare, depending on the direction you're shooting, maybe hunting, especially when you don't know which direction critters come from, that could be useful. Right now, for me, I'm just not needing that, but it is a nice high quality one, and I'm very glad to see that the optic comes with that. One thing that's just hard to explain is how well this reticle works with this optic. Like the whole combination here, it is such a good reticle for what I'm doing right now. I am going to throw it on a 308 after this, but I'm going to have a hard time taking it off this 22 because it works so well. It's really fun. And man, that parallax, it's nice with really clear glass, guys, being able to sharpen up that image and use the parallax to the fullest and just know that it's absolutely free of parallax with that dial. It's a very smooth dial. I'm not fighting the rifle. It's just exactly the way that it should be. Wow, is that tight? Yeah, 300 yards. 3-inch group at 300 yards is fantastic for 22. That's like, this stuff is killing it right now. Wow. Optic obviously is doing so much work. That clarity and the low light. Okay, the clarity, I had to turn my mic on because I want you to hear me say this. The clarity, even though that's in a shadowy spot, it is dark down there. There's not as much light as there is up here. The contrast is exceptional. The color is fantastic. So happy that this turned out to be a very good scope. You know, it would have been really disappointing. If this was a dud, guys, sad. Would have been very sad, but the color is excellent. Eyebox is not touchy. Eyebox is very, very good. I'm so comfortable in here, and if I didn't know this was a 30 millimeter, I would just assume it was a bigger optic. It's really nice. It's very pleasant to look through, and it is helping me shoot some ridiculously tight groups for a 22 at 300 yards. Wow. Just edge to edge. It looks so good. I really need to take this to greater distances. I need to take this past 500. I'll tell you this, and let's talk for a second. This is an important thing to bring up. I know that it's advertised with 20-something mils of travel. It's a little bit more 20-something. For me, what I get from my Zero with, I'm using infinity rings on this 22, but for me, I'm getting 29.6 mils of internal elevation. Now, I don't recommend running optics to their extreme ends. You know, I probably could have run this on a 50 MOA base and just barely gotten by, like literally just barely gotten by, but I prefer not to run it that far to the extremes. Although something really interesting about this scope is usually when you start getting towards the extremes of your travel, it starts to feel a little gummy. You start to feel that spring binding or tension or whatever it is. It's just so extremely canted and tilted. There's not much room in there to move further, and you start to feel it in the tension. For whatever reason, I don't feel it in this, which leads me to believe that they have probably limited the scope to the 29.6 mils of actual usable range, at least on my model, okay? Maybe yours only has 26, maybe 23, but I bet it has more. And maybe they just limited it to not quite get to 30 so that you're in optimal glass territory. It's gonna stay really, really nice glass because it is exceptional. And then also tracking, just, you know, it's really good true tracking and not running it to the extreme ends. Perhaps that's why, but here's the proof. There's 10, 20, and 29.4 is where I have it right now because of the rings, but it'll get 0.2 more in there if I really wanted to, or 2 or 3 tenths more in there, and I just don't want to. I'm happy to leave it right where it is. But yes, this actually has a great deal of internal travel, and it's true, it's tracking wonderfully. All right, ZeroTech 4 to 24, 830 yards, using some 130 grain burger bullets, 6.5 Creedmoor. Yeah, so my data is, I'm gonna go with 5. Not sure on the wind call, that's for sure. There it is. Okay, that was the dead center of the pan. The other hits were just a little low of that on the target. All hits just a little lower than I intended. All right, those are too easy. Let's switch over and just use the reticle and holdovers. All right, this time I'm gonna go ahead and use the holdovers. I'm still on 24 power. I can certainly see 5 mils of holdover on 24 power, no problem. Absolutely love this reticle. It's a great option in this scope. All right, I got 1 round left. Let's go for a headshot. This might be a miss, but I don't know. It's a good sized target. All right, next I'm gonna take 3 rounds, and I am gonna dial. And I'm gonna back it off to, there it is, 4 power. All right, we're on 4 power, 830 yards. Excellent field of view, just enormous. That looks great. Not difficult, guys. You don't need heavy magnification. I just like it. I like shooting on 24 power, but 4 power, absolutely. Can see that target moving around. I might even be able to see dust cloud on a really good day. Yeah, I think I probably could. At 830 yards, I could see dust cloud. Excellent. Let's do 5 mils of holdover. Glass is excellent all the way down to the bottom of the reticle. Again, I'm on 4 power at 830 yards, and I'm going to use 5 mils of holdover. Guys, I'm telling you, this thing with this optic, it's a laser. Very repeatable tracking. I would say 8 or 9 power is a really comfortable place to be. Just not difficult. Hey, I got one more bullet here. Let's go for a clay. And I will go up to 24 power. There is a clay to the left of the silhouette. I have to get a good wind call here to smoke this guy. I'll probably get close. A little high. Okay, a little high. Not too bad. When I first took this out of the box, I did wonder, can a 30mm keep up with the big dogs in this game? And the gun games thing, the ELR thing, the long range competition PRS type thing, can it keep up with them? And now that I've had quite a few rounds through it, it's not a keep up thing. This is outpacing so much of the competition. I am glad that on paper, you know, I looked at the numbers and I thought, well, this is a decent scope. It's a very decent scope. No, this is a very, very good scope. And I would say this is actually setting the bar higher than a lot of the other 34mm Japanese glass optics. This is, dare I say it, this is the best 30mm scope that I've owned, that I've shot, that I've seen. This one is definitely the next level stuff. The Trace Advanced actually is advanced from the competition in some significant ways. Sun is setting in about 1 minute. Got one shot left. It's been so windy. This better be on steel. Excellent. Man, I love that scope. If you've held on this far in the review, thank you. I just want to say thank you so much for paying attention, watching this, being entertained by it, or considering the product. It all helps the channel and helps me defeat the algorithm. You've held on long enough, and if you're looking for the specs, I better give them to you. So here are the specifications. It is a first focal plane optic. The magnification range, again, is 4 to 24. The objective lens diameter is 50 millimeters. The main tube is a 30 millimeter. It does have a 0 stop. The turret index value is 0.1 mrad. The internal elevation adjustment is advertised as 23 mrad. Again, if you watched the review, you saw that I had a little difference there, and it was more favorable than the 23 mrad, but that is what is advertised. Internal windage adjustment is advertised at 20 mrad. The parallax adjustment range is from 20 meters to infinity. The exit pupil diameter on the low side is 8.6 millimeters, on the high side it's 2.1 millimeters. The eye relief is around 92 millimeters. Field of view at 100 meters is on the low side 9.7 meters, on the high side 1.6 meters. The objective outer diameter is 59 millimeters. The ocular outer diameter is 43.6 millimeters. The weight is 770 grams, and the available reticles you can get this in, again, I covered this before, but it's the RMG, very good reticle, or the Tremor3, and they are both going to be in Japanese glass. This optic is incredibly high quality, and that's probably one of my favorite parts, is that Japanese glass. This particular model that I'm reviewing does not have illumination, and it didn't kill it for me, but pay attention just in case something like that pops up in the future. And if you did not get a manual in your package when you purchase this, remember that's because there's a QR code which is going to send you to the website and give you your product specs as well as how to work on it, or how to set the zero stop if you're unfamiliar completely with precision optics. This one is a very basic, simple system. I think everybody will figure it out real quickly. If you've had any optic before with the zero stop, this should be familiar to you, and it's the system that I personally like. Also, don't forget that this is, backed by their AAA unconditional lifetime warranty. The new Japanese-made Trace Advanced 4-24x50 from ZeroTech will be a precision instrument that you can count on. That's how they're discussing it, and I agree with them completely. Who would really appreciate this optic? Well, first of all, anybody who needs like a stunningly, objectively high-end clear image. You are going to like this, and I'm telling everybody right now, when it comes to this good glass stuff, yes, it matters, and I think it's a big deal the more and more you shoot. If shooting is your hobby, save up the money and get something like this. I love their 5-25. The Vengeance line, I've done a lot with it. I've taken it to 1,000 yards and beyond. But this optic, man, they are just not the same optic. I'll tell you that. I really appreciate this one. It is a 4-24 versus a 5-25. There's a minor difference there, but I see the optical quality in this, and I can feel it all over in every attribute of this scope. So well done to ZeroTech. This is only the first video that I'm going to have. I'm going to finish this video with a cold bore shot at 1,027 yards on a clay, believe it or not. Yes, that was an impact.